here's the thing, if you don't listen to the whispers or the intuitive nudges or the subtle pull, then you're gonna get ripped out of it. And I always tell people, like, you want to leave before you get ripped out of it, because getting ripped out of it means you're gonna have a blow up with your friends, for example, or something's gonna kick you out of the house. It's gonna get flooded. Like, you don't want to wait until the universe pulls you out, because it will get more dramatic to force you to exit. And so the second I start to feel like my soul is saying, you gotta go, you go. All right, time for more Q's and A's.
The Q's and the A's.
The Q's and the A's continue.
Giving the people what they want.
Yeah.
And what the people want is to know, how did you meet your new boyfriend? And how long have the two of you been dating? We got like 5 questions about this.
Okay. How I met my new boyfriend. Well, I manifested him. I met him because I have a client / friend / I'm also her client who referred him to me, and he came in as a client. And then I moved it to friendship, and then we started dating.
It's a beautiful story.
Is there more you want to say?
Is there what I want to say?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I am his #1 fan, just so that everyone knows. The night that I met him was also the night that I had come back from a birthday trip in Joshua Tree.
Yeah.
And he said the magic words to me. He said, "Oh, Joshua Tree, you know what I love about Joshua Tree is the live Rufus set from there." And I was like, oh, game over, baby. Yeah. Literally game over. We talked about music and frequency and stuff like that for the rest of the night. So, yeah. I am obsessed with him.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed with you guys together.
Thanks.
It's like every water sign's dream.
Yeah, for sure.
To watch you guys together.
I know. Yeah, we're very watery. Yeah, I mean, there's like the technicalities of how we met, but like we were both manifesting each other, and I feel like there's so many synchronicities for both of us on both sides. And even as we started dating, we were both like, this is weird, like just so many synchronicities hitting us in the face, and it just kind of all unraveled quickly. So yeah, that's how the universe delivered him to me. And it's funny because I had just posted on Instagram and I said, I want my man to come straight to my front door, and he did.
Literally did. Fuck, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. So, you know, the thing is, when you're manifesting people, they're gonna come through in whatever door you have open. You know, so I meet a lot of people through that door because that's one of my main doors that I have open. I'm not like really out and about, honestly, that much. I'm more working. So, but yeah. And it's exactly like, you know, I had been asking my guides, like, I want to meet my person. And they told me, they're like, you'll meet him in 6 weeks and you don't need to do anything. He's going to come straight to you. And I was like, really? Like, and I was like, okay. And I was, because I was unattached, because I didn't need it quickly, I was like, great. And I would just tell everybody, I was like, yeah, well, my guide said 6 weeks, and everyone was just like, eye roll. No way.
Not me.
Not you, but a lot of other people were eye rolling at me, like, oh, Christina. And then it happened. And the other piece of this is that I had done a manifestation ritual with a friend. This is like, I feel like everyone knows about this now, but we did this manifestation ritual. Both of us just, I don't think really realizing how well it was going to work. And after that, I met him the next day after that. So,
oh my God, I forgot that detail.
Yeah. And it's funny because we used this part of the ritual. We used this chocolate lava cake that my friend had, she ordered on Uber Eats or whatever. And it was from the restaurant that then he asked me to go to dinner at that restaurant.
I didn't know this.
And I'd never been in that restaurant.
I did not know.
Yeah,
this.
It was like all of these little synchronicities like that. So we used this chocolate lava cake from this place. And then it was the next day, like we met, and then we like hung out, you know, you were there like as whatever in a group. And then the next day we went out. He asked me to dinner, and the place he was just like, great, let's go here. And I was like, that's so weird. That's the same place we got this cake from, which I had never been there. And then we were at New Year's. we were there with like two of my other friends. We're out at a different restaurant. We're at the Rancho Valencia. And we were talking about the ritual and all that. And then we were kind of manifesting for next New Year's and what our friends wanted and building up the scene. And then at the end, we were like, oh, let's get a dessert. And I wasn't even thinking, but basically the lady was like, oh, there's only 2 gluten-free things, a strawberry shortcake and a chocolate lava cake. And I was like, chocolate lava cake. Like, I want chocolate. And then we were like, oh, let's blow out a wish on this chocolate lava cake. And I was like, we just used a chocolate lava cake for the other ritual. So that's why we're like, okay, it's chocolate lava cake for sure.
Hell yeah.
Use the chocolate lava cake, blow out the candle. But yeah, so I think that ritual worked.
It very much worked.
Yeah.
We love this for you.
Yeah, but there are just like so many synchronicities. I have a note on my phone with all the different synchronicities that had come up, and even just like, you know, he was like, oh, you drive a silver G-Wagon? He goes, that's so weird. I just put that on my vision board last week. Like really just specific things like that. And then we were talking about with my hair, how, I mean, on his manifestation, he wanted a brunette. And then I just started getting these intense downloads like, I need to be brunette now. And so I dyed my hair. And then how you had that dream that I was like talking about my partner and that my hair was darker. And I told him, I was like, you like psychically made me dye my hair brunette. Yeah. You know? So it was just like all of these different synchronicities.
I love
that
it.
I could go on about.
Yeah. I also like to give myself what's it called? Credit because of my birthday.
Oh.
Because I invited him to my birthday.
Oh, yeah.
The night that I met him.
Yeah.
It had absolutely nothing to do with anything, but I like to tell myself that it did.
Yeah. We're like, we're planning on you. I mean, yeah, it all happened pretty fast. But yeah, it was good. And the fact that, so he had like made this rule with himself, he wouldn't date Aries.
Oh my God. Yeah.
And then after he met me, he asked his sister to find out what sign I was. And she was like, oh, she's an Aries, because she went back and saw. And then the night that we hung out, you were like, oh, you had made a comment about me being a Cancer. And he's like, wait, you're a Cancer? I was like, I think I got a new soul and I had a walk-in just because this man didn't want to date an Aries.
Literally. Yeah. Like, it's not aligned with your partner.
Yeah. So. Yeah. So I have to become a Cancer, because he was like, yeah, I want a water sign. Like, so yeah, that's how we met.
He's so specific in his manifestations, which we love.
Yes. He's a good manifester for sure. We're very into manifesting together. So
powerful shit.
Yeah, very powerful. Manifestation works. So yeah, that's how we met.
I love it. We did have another question about dating. How do you know when a guy in this day and age wants a relationship with you?
Cynical.
Yeah.
I mean, that question.
Yeah, in this day and age.
Look, if a guy wants a relationship with you, if a guy wants a relationship with you, he'll make it happen. It's just that simple. And I know that we want to spin all these stories and make all these excuses, but sometimes people can get scared, and I don't know. There is all that stuff going on, but I really do believe at the end of the day, like, if a guy wants to be in a relationship with you, he will make it happen. And I know that people don't want to hear that, but it's just the truth. Yeah.
If you're interpreting behavior, it's not it. You shouldn't have to interpret it.
I think a lot of this has to do with self-worth, like we were talking about this earlier. And I know, again, people don't want to hear it, and I think it's something that doesn't click until you just really feel it for yourself. But there's a moment where you realize, why the hell am I trying to convince someone to want to be with me? Like, if you're trying to convince somebody to want to be with you, you need to look at your self-worth, your level of self-love. Do you really see yourself? Because you should not be convincing anybody to want to be in a relationship with you. A lot of that is just coming from our wounds. So we need to heal those wounds, because that's not healthy. Like, the right person for you is going to want to be in a relationship with you. It goes both ways. And you shouldn't have to convince them. Even if they're just playing games, it's like, grow up. You know, like, we got to cut out the games. But I just believe, like, with the right person, there's not going to be games. Men in general, like, if they want something, they make it happen, you know? And if they don't want something, they'll be wishy-washy, or they'll kind of keep it around, or like, the way the male brain works, it's like, if I want this, I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to pursue it. You know, even when guys are like, when they are scared or they do have blocks or whatever, when there's still that piece of them that's like, I want to be in this, they'll still do it. That's just how men work. Mm-hmm. So I would just say, if you're wondering, like, you shouldn't have to figure it out. Yeah. They're going to be clear. Yeah. You know?
Definitely. It's a very easy, like, if it's not clear, it's not it.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, if you really want to be sure, I mean, make sure you've been clear too. Right. Because I think also sometimes, you know, there are plenty of men who don't want to be like like, a lot of men don't even know how to act, because for some women you're too forward mm-hmm. and you're too much. For other women, like, you're not being masculine enough, and they're like, what am I mm-hmm. supposed to do? Like men want to be respectful. Like, a lot of men are like, I don't know. And so I think sometimes women are not clear with how they feel. Like, mm-hmm. if you give him the invitation, you make it clear that you're interested, then you see what he does with that. Mm-hmm. So I think that's the other side. I mean, often when people ask that question, they've made it pretty clear and they're trying to convince mm-hmm. someone. But on the other side of things, I also know women who, they don't understand why men aren't like fully pursuing. And I'm like, you're not really giving any signals that you want that. You're not making it obvious that you would be interested in that or that you would be open to that. And so I think, you know, when there are women that just want men to do all the work, like, that's not it. That's not it. Yeah. We both show up and we mm-hmm. both express what we want. So you got to make sure that you are inviting that in and making it clear that you would be interested. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Totally agree. Okay. So this is a question from one of my friends. And basically she was asking about this quote and interpretation of this quote. The longer you entertain what's not for you, the longer you postpone what is. So how do you discern when to take action to align with what's really for you versus waiting on the universe to show you the next steps? And she had given a couple of examples, like, she's in a dating dynamic where that feels really new and expansive, and like she's able to learn a lot, but maybe has a feeling like they may not be her person. So waiting on the universe or mm-hmm. taking action towards something that might be more aligned, as well as staying in a job that she feels like she can learn in, but that she's only inconsistently happy. Like, she's not always happy. And then also in her living situation, like, she loves her living situation, but feels like she wants to move towards just living alone instead of living with roommates. So really that discerning of like when to wait for the alignment and when to take the action.
Well, I think that here's the thing. If you are entertaining something that's not for you and you're like, this is not for me, then your first step is always remove that. Like, it's like kind of that simple. But there can be things that we know aren't end game that like are for us right now. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the difference. So I would probably need more information about how she feels or what the dynamics are in some of those specific scenarios. So if we start with the dating one, I know I certainly have been in relationships where whether it's conscious or not, like you might be like, I don't know that this is my person, or you either just don't know, like you don't know that you don't know. But I think the second you're like, absolutely, they're not my person, I know that, is the moment you release. But I think if you're like, I'm not sure yet, I need more data, then, and there's still something here for me, I'm getting value out of this, I'm learning, I'm growing, I'm enjoying myself, then you stay in it. And mm-hmm. I think the second you know this isn't my person for sure, then you release it. I think it's kind of that, like, it's that simple. And in a career, I think the same thing. Like, sometimes we can know, hey, I don't want to be here forever, I don't want this to be my job forever, but right now this is good for me. Like, right now I'm getting a lot out of it. And I think that it comes back to the conversation we've had before around, like, how do you know when a contract is complete? And there's just like this mm-hmm. feeling. Like, sometimes I'll feel like, yeah, I don't know how long this is going to last, but right now it's good. Like, right now I'm getting things out of it, but I'll feel something kind of coming. And there will be a moment I'll wake up and I'll be like, I don't want to do this anymore. Mm-hmm. It's over, you know? And so I think it's waiting for that moment, so to speak. But in the moments, in the time where I can feel something coming, I'm not feeling like it's not for me. Like, I'm feeling like, oh, this is good though. Like, I like this. I'm happy here. It's good. So I think as long as you're in that, you stay in it, and then you know the contract is up based on like, I don't want to be here anymore. So I think the second you're like, this isn't serving me in any way, you let it go. But I also think, I mean, career can be tough for people, and just speaking energetically, I know that there's kind of a lot of nuances around this just in terms of like the emotions around it, but just talking with the energetics, the second in a career, how do I want to say that? I think a lot of people stay in things where they're like, well, I like the pay, I like this part, but I hate this part, I hate this part. You have to be real with yourself about, in most jobs, there are going to be pieces that like aren't your favorite. There are going to always be parts of the job that you don't like. That's just the reality of it. Like, I'm in my dream job and there are plenty of things I don't like about it, but like, I love it at the same time, right? There's not any piece of me that's like, oh, maybe I should be over here or should be over there. And so I think you have to discern of like, are these just like things that annoy me about it but at the end of the day, like, I love doing this, like, or is this something that I'm staying in because I like these pieces, but over here it's draining the life force out of me. I'm not feeling inspired. Like, I'm thinking about something else. I wish I was somewhere else. Then you need to leave, So I think that, to be honest, my cat's screaming at the door again. I think that a lot of people in W-2 jobs stay too long in unhealthy careers, and I think that a lot of people who are more in entrepreneurship or self-employment jump too soon.
Yeah. Oh, I agree.
If I were to make a generalization, I think it's always different, but and the third example was living situation. And what exactly did she say? She said
she loves where she lives, and she loves her roommates, but she just feels this pull that she's felt for a while, and she feels like this is the year that she wants to live alone.
Well, to me, it's like, if you're feeling that pull, you're feeling it now.
Yeah.
Right? And so here's the thing, if you don't listen to the whispers or the intuitive nudges or the subtle pull, then you're going to get ripped out of it. And I always tell people, like, you want to leave before you get ripped out of it, because getting ripped out of it means you're going to have a blow up with your friends, for example, or something's going to kick you out of the house. It's going to get flooded. Like, you don't want to wait until the universe pulls you out, because it will get more dramatic to force you to exit. And so a second I start to feel like my soul is saying, you got to go, you go. And I know this isn't like a clearly defined thing, but that's kind of the best answer I can give. Like, the second you know this isn't for me, then you leave. The second you feel like I keep being called in another direction, you go. I think most people wait too long. Like, they're waiting for something bad to happen to say, oh, this isn't for me. But really, you want to get ahead of that so you don't have to have bad things happen, I think. So that's how I would describe it.
Yeah, I think, like you said, this goes back to when we used to talk about how to know when the contract is up. Because like you said, as humans, we can tend to get so used to waiting for it to blow up. And really, the higher level of energetic awareness is being able to, like you said, just listen to the whispers. Yeah. And to know that that is just as powerful as when shit hits the fan. And you don't have to wait until shit hits the fan.
Yeah. I mean, I think are you happy?
Yeah.
Because there have been things where I know something else is coming, but I'm happy.
Right.
Like, I actually am. In that case, it's not time to leave yet.
Right.
But the second I'm not happy is when I leave. And I think, honestly, that's kind of the best barometer, because you could be in something where there's a lot of things you love about it, but there are these things that you hate, and so you're just not happy. Right. And if you're not happy, that's your sign. Something's out of alignment. Your soul isn't happy. So I would listen to that. But I do think it's, if you know something's not for you, then you leave. Yeah. But if you're like, right now, I'm very happy and this is for me right now, like, it's working well, then you stay. But I just don't, I even hesitate to say that, because I don't know that people are willing to be honest with themselves enough. I have so many conversations with people and they're like, no, but I love it. No, but I love this about it. I love that about it. I'm like, you gotta go. Like, this is not healthy. We delude ourselves into thinking it's fine because we don't know how we should feel. And on the other side, I think we've also created this culture, and I think this is toxic in the spirituality space. I think it's toxic in Gen Z. I mean, this is my whole rant, where people don't want to do a single thing that is uncomfortable or a single thing they don't like. And like, that's just life, honey, So I don't know. You got to know where you're at on that side of the spectrum. And most people will know if you're honest with yourself. Like, do I tend to run? Do I like any little thing that's uncomfortable? I'm like, this isn't for me. Or do I tend to be the person that stays in things way too long and I'm kind of used to this unhappiness, but it's fine. Because it's not bad, it's fine. You got to know what side of the spectrum you're on. And the answer probably lies in the opposite.
Totally. I mean, that resonates for me because I'm usually the one that would run, right? And so just knowing that about yourself helps you to check in those moments of like, oh, am I just trying to run because this is uncomfortable? And like you said, trying the opposite. Like, what would it look like if I were to stay and persevere? And then for someone as well who tends to stay, what would it look like if I were to actually consider leaving?
Yeah, I mean, I tend to stay too long. Like, I tend to wait way too long, and so now I've learned to get ahead of it because it's so painful when things get ripped out of my hands. And so I've got to attune to that for sure. You know, and I think for me, it's like the second I'll feel it's for me, it's like I'm not happy or I'm really frustrated, and it's consistent for me. It's just been like consistent for weeks or months or whatever, and I'm like, that's a consistent thing. It's not like, oh, one day I feel frustrated or like even 3, you know, it's like this is consistently I'm feeling some frustration. I'm feeling not happy. And that's important because there have been situations where there's literally nothing wrong. I can't even pinpoint what's off because on paper it's all good. And when I'm there, like, yeah, I'm enjoying it, but there's this deeper sense of like sadness or frustration or desire for something else. And so I just have to listen to that, even though it seems like nothing's wrong. And then that allows me to avoid the painful ripping that the universe will do when we don't listen to the whispers. So I think it's better to get ahead of it.
Listen to the whispers.
But I think, you know, part of that question that I want to say is this also connects back to the choice we have with our timelines. I think that a lot of times in spirituality, I mean, I was just saying this to a friend yesterday, somebody who is professional channel, and like some of the questions this person was asking me, I felt like we're just so disempowered. And I said, you choose your timelines though, like you get to choose. And this person, because it was about a relationship dynamic and like, well, you know, destiny is going to control everything, so you know, if I clear this out and they're meant to be in my life, they're going to come back. And in many ways, yes, but I said, but also there's many dynamics where maybe no. Like if you tell the universe, I don't want no to this person, that might mean, okay, no. And that could have been someone who was in your life for a long time. And we think about marriage contracts. Like there's not just one person you could marry. Sorry. Like there are many different lives you could choose. And when you're saying, no, I don't want to be with you, that for most people like closes the timeline. You know, sometimes they come back around if it's a really strong timeline, but we have choice about that. And we do have to realize that like we can pull timelines closer, we can push them off. And so the way most people operate is they wait until the last possible second to open up the next timeline. The way I operate is I tend to do it as soon as I can. Like that's the difference. People wonder how like I do things really quickly because I do it at the earliest phase where the door opens. Most people wait until it's about to close because that's when things go wrong. That's when you're getting pulled out of your life. That's when, you know, your soul urge is so loud you feel like you're gonna crawl out of your skin. And I'm like, the second I feel it, I'm like, okay, let's move forward, you know. And like that's the difference. And so by doing that, I think about everything that's happened in my life. I feel like what's happened in the last 3 years could have taken 15 years, but I pushed it into 3. That's the difference. So you do control your timelines in that way, in terms of choice, and in terms of which fork in the road are you going to pick, but also in terms of timing, right? And so it could be, hey, I was always going to be in this job and then go to this next job and get beautiful things out of both of them. But one person might stay in that first job for 5 years and then finally go into the next job. And the other person might stay in that job for 3 months, get what they need, and then move on in the next job. So it's really, I kind of think just up to you in that way about if you want to be someone who pushes the timeline along. And I have a lot of clients who will ask me questions where I'm like, it's up to you. You can choose it now or you can choose it later. So do you want to do the next chapter now or do you want to do it in 8 months? Like either way. You can just be in the same situation in 8 months or you cannot. And I think that's the thing to think about. Like when you're feeling that subtle whisper, well, the current situation you're in, do you want to be in it for another year? Like if you know you're going to move on to another job, for example, do you want to be in it for another year, or do you want to move forward now? Because sometimes you can just kind of pick, you know, and there's this whole range of time, but then maybe at that year mark, you're going to get ripped out of it. So I think that can give you some information as well. But, you know, I just really want to encourage people to like claim the power that they do have, right? Life's going to throw you things, and there are contracts and that part of destiny and other people's choices and all universe stuff and attraction going on all at the same time. But like, there's so much that you can claim and choose and like say, hey, I want this faster. And sometimes it doesn't happen, but many times it can. But most people just let life happen to them. And Luna's once again crying.
She's confirming.
She's like, yes, this is true. This is true. I don't know why she wants to be in here.
She loves this conversation so much. She
doesn't usually do that. She usually stays away from everyone.
Yeah.
She doesn't want to be around the action.
Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, I mean, do you feel like that answers it?
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is also what you were just telling me
a
couple of days ago. You know, I think it's easy to bypass.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you're so tapped in spiritually in that way, or at least for me, I'll just speak for myself, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, what do I always ask you? Like, well, I mean, I don't always ask you, but in moments of big change, I'm like, well, what does my soul want?
Yeah.
You're like, what do you mean, what does your soul want? Like, it's not always, like, sometimes you can just ask your soul and it's a big, like, hey, you can't miss this. And sometimes it's like, just choose.
Yeah.
Like, you have to choose. And like you always say too, it's like one choice opens up a set of different choices. And then it's not that like, if you don't choose this now, it might not come back around, right? But it's like you said, it's a dance. Like, I think of everything as like a dance, right? And so it's like maybe the first beat drop is a different one, and then you can have a completely different one that's a completely different genre.
Yeah.
30 seconds later.
Totally.
And so I mean, I empathize with people who are feeling that. Like, I have felt that in a lot of ways with like these big things in life, and it requires you to really get clear on what it is that you want. And that's what you told me the other day too. Like, what do you want? And when you attune to that, then the next steps and the decisions and the timing, I think, become very easy the more that you connect to what you actually want.
Yeah. And I think the deeper piece of that is connecting into, what does my soul want? And then what does my human want?
Yeah.
And sometimes those are the same, sometimes they're different, and that's okay. Like, just because it's a human want doesn't mean it's wrong or bad. But I think it's helpful just to identify what those things are. Like, there are many things like I know my soul wants, but my human really wants something else. And so there are many times I indulge in that, and that's fine. That's fine. Just because it's like my human wants this doesn't mean it's wrong. Like, my soul, your soul is always going to put more urgency on you than you need. Your soul is always going to be like, big mission, go for it. Your soul doesn't give a fuck about human shit. Your soul doesn't give a fuck about like all these little like timing inconveniences and like relationships. And, well, I want to be able to go to that party, so I don't want to move right now. Like, your soul doesn't give a shit. Your soul is just like, this is the mission. These are the big energies. Make it happen. And your human can account for all of that stuff that gives us this like humanly sense of pleasure. And that's not all bad stuff, right? So my soul might be like, Christina, write 5 books tomorrow. And I'm like, hold the phone. I was like, I don't want to do that because I want to do this. And like, my human wants something else. And that's okay, right? That's okay. But then you get into deeper layers of like, what part of my human wants this? Is this the healthy part of my human? Or is this like my ego, my addiction, my wounding, my bad patterning, the part of me that doesn't want to change, that doesn't want to grow, my fear, right? But my human coming from love can want something right now that's different than what my soul is urging me toward, because maybe my human wants to take some more time. And that's fine. That's totally, there's nothing wrong with that. I do that all the time.
Yeah.
Right? And so I think that's where it's like, you know, what am I wanting because of my fear, because of my wounding, because of my trauma, because whatever that is, right? Where I'm just limiting myself, versus what do I want just because this would be happiness for me right now, you know, from love, from abundance, whatever it is. And so I think you've got to account for all of those different aspects of desire and wants, and not judge them, but just kind of realize that they can all be different, you know? Like, I gotta calm my soul down. My soul is likes to move so fast, I would combust.
Yeah.
So I get that healthy human part of me gets to be the intermediary, kind of like in between my soul's urgency that's like really pushing me into my highest expansion, and then like my ego and my conditioning and my fear. And so we're always kind of, more on this side of the spectrum, but I'm certainly not always pure soul desire, because sometimes there's human stuff to account for. I'm like, I don't want to do that this weekend because I want to go to my niece's birthday party. So I'm going to put it off. It's okay. Like that's the thing. There have been choices I've made where I have pushed the timeline out before. I've been like, yeah, I could end this now, but like I'm happy here and I want to spend another year in this dynamic. Like I've done that before in my life, and I would never take it back because I enjoyed that. So yeah, it's okay. Just because something's taking longer doesn't mean it's bad. But I think the difference is it's a different feeling when you're choosing to make it longer than when you feel like you're being forced into a longer timeline, right? And that empowered choice is because I genuinely want to, not because I'm being forced to or because I'm afraid of anything. So it's a different feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely. I love all of that. I think that that's so important to have with us in like every element of life, that balance and the permission to know that like the human part is okay.
Yeah.
And that it's just a decision, right?
I mean, even in the little things, like, last night my spirit guides keep telling me like what I needed my diet to be, like what I should be eating. And I was like, last night I was, sad and crying, and Tyler was like, I was like, should I get what my spirit guides told me that I need to order? Should I get what like my heart wants? And he was like, I think you just get what your heart wants right now. Like I was like, okay, I want chicken and soup and chocolate.
Yeah.
I was like,
yeah, the
like,
trifecta.
Yeah, it's like, okay, that's what I'm gonna do right now. So all of that is good information, and you just get to make an empowered choice as an adult.
Yeah, it's all helpful. This is actually kind of connected to that. It's connected to like what you want. How do you start from scratch and moving in the direction of what you want when you feel like you have no idea what you want? After doing the work of cutting out attachments and cutting away what I don't want, I feel like I'm left with nothing.
I feel like that's a really beautiful place to start getting to know yourself again and to start exploring. When you feel like, if you genuinely don't know what you want, it's because you don't have enough experience. So that means that life is asking you to have more experiences. Life is asking you to try things you haven't tried before, to learn about things that you haven't learned about before, to talk to people you haven't talked about before, just to become a yes person. See where life leads you. You never know what's going to be interesting. Try a new podcast, listen to or watch a new movie, listen to new music, whatever it is. Just start getting out there and getting in the energy of newness, because that opens up an energetic portal for the universe to start delivering things to you. It doesn't even matter what it is, but you have to start just moving the ball energetically and putting yourself in a position where the universe can send you signs. Because most people, they're just sitting there thinking harder about it. If you can't figure it out, it's not in your field of awareness. And so you have to expand your field of awareness, or you have to put yourself in a position where it's easier for the universe to send you a sign, right? So that's going to be through someone, a conversation you have, something you see, an opportunity that comes up. So that's why talking to people is really helpful in those phases. I find that if I'm ever feeling like I can't figure something out and I feel like my intuition is blocked for whatever reason, like I just get out there and I chat with people. Like I see who's reaching out to me. I'm like, what's up? I just hear what they have to say. It might seem completely unrelated. It doesn't matter. I'm just trying to open myself up to as many people as I can and ideas as I can. And I say yes to everything, whether or not it makes sense. And that will lead you to where you want to go, So that's the thing, is people are being asked to step into something totally different, but they don't even know what that thing is. They've never touched it. They never experienced it. They don't know that something else is possible. So you have to go live life so that you can bump into that thing or that template and you're like, whoa, wait, I like that. I want to try that. It's really that simple. But I do think there are a group of people who ask that question where I'm like, it's not true that you don't know what you want to do. It's not true. You just don't want to be honest with yourself because you're scared. So I would also think about, what has your soul said? What has your intuition said? What have you been pulled toward? What are your big dreams that you haven't acted on that you tell yourself you could never do? Is there something that's already been in your field that you're just saying that's not possible? I can't make money doing that, or I can't focus on that, or that won't work. You're already writing off. That's typically where you should look, because I think more people than not do actually know at least the general idea, and then that gives you a jumping off point to learn more about. I mean, I was having this conversation with someone like a couple days ago about changing their career, and I was describing just the energy of it, and they're like, well, I don't know what to do with that. I don't know about that. So what am I supposed to do? And I go, learn about it. Like, literally Google the most general thing and see where it takes you. Listen to a podcast about it, read a book about it. Like, you got to get out there. I mean, that's how I get information, And so, but if you're like, well, I've never heard of that, so I don't know what to do with it, and so you do nothing, the universe is giving you clues, but you have to go be a detective and take action on them. And so many people like don't want to do that. Like that's the fun part, is researching, is finding signs. It's like weird. I like got this idea. Let me just go try it out. Like, if you don't know the answer to something, you need to go figure it out. There are a million hits on Google that you could double tap on. There's so many podcasts, there's so many books, there's so many movies, like there's so many people that you could learn from. But what people do is they just sit there and like, well, I don't know what to do, so I'm doing nothing. It's like, if you don't know the answer to a problem, do you just sit there and say, I don't know the answer to a problem? Like, my sink is drained. I don't know how to clear a sink. So do I sit there and cry? Like, I call a plumber. I look up on YouTube, how do I clear my drain? Like, you do something to figure it out. And like, if you follow one lead and it's not working, then you find the next lead and you figure it out. And I know I know how that sounds, but this is literally what people do in their lives. And I'm telling you this, like, I talk to so many people every day, and I'm telling you, people do not go problem solve. And spirit gives us clues and high level concepts and sometimes very specific things to go off of, but we have to take action and go deeper into it to allow life to continue to deliver more information to us, right? One step leads to the next, to the next. But what happens is we get delivered step one, and then we're like, well, I don't know the rest of the steps, so I'm not going to do anything with it. Yeah. You have to go take step one. So I also just want to encourage people to like kind of go out there and do the thing. But sometimes we say I don't know, and we do. And I think one of the most important things I ever did in my life was, and this is when I was really, really trying to cultivate my intuition, I told myself I'm no longer going to say I don't know. And I didn't let myself say I don't know for like 6 months. Saying I don't know is actually a very important skill, like that humility and to be able to learn from other people. But for the purposes of building my intuition, I said I'm no longer allowed to say I don't know about what I want, not logistical things. It was like, I do know. So what do I know? Even if it just feels like a little nugget, a little aspect of it. What do I know? I do know. I do know. Otherwise I wouldn't be in this situation. I do know what to do. And even to this day, I might be feeling feels and I'm like, I don't know. And I'm just like having temper tantrum. I mean, this happened yesterday. Like, I was just feeling so overwhelmed and I was like, I don't know what to do. And I let myself, and I was like, I do know. Let me figure out what I know. So I went into meditation and I asked my guides and I checked in with my soul and I looked back through my journals and I was like, I do know. I just haven't really wanted to look at what I know, or I haven't really wanted to deal with what I know, or I haven't known what to do with what I know. So let me look at it and figure out what to do with what I know. And I realized that I didn't want to figure it out because it wasn't figuring it out. It was, I had to make decisions and I just didn't want to make decisions. But then I realized how me avoiding making decisions is leaving me feeling so frustrated and so disempowered that it was worse than just making the decision. Right. So I said, okay, Christina, just make the decision. So then I made the decision with everything that I did know, and then the energy moved. And that made me feel better.
Yeah. I mean, mic drop.
Yeah.
That's how it goes.
Yeah.
You got to move the energy.
Yeah. So I think, we typically know more than we say we do. People say, I don't know how I feel. I don't know if I want to stay in this. I don't know if I want to leave. I don't know if I should. And it's like, you do.
Yeah.
You just might be afraid of the answer. And if you
100%.
can admit that to yourself, then you're going to get a lot closer to taking action on your knowing. But the thing is that if people have decided they don't want to take action on what they know, then they're always going to keep themselves in a space of not knowing.
Yeah.
Because the second that you know, it's tough to
Yep.
just pretend you don't.
Yeah.
So that's where the bravery comes in, and being someone that is okay with, okay, well, that's not an easy choice or is an easy action, but I can do it. I can do it. And you can't do it. So you do know more than you think.
You fucking know.
Yeah.
I love it. Let's see. How do you overcome overwhelm?
Personally? Like me
I think so.
personally?
Yeah, I think they're asking
I'll
you.
just answer it like that. I overcome overwhelm, I mean, kind of similar to what I was describing, but I told the girls in my mastermind this yesterday. I was like talking about when I feel so frustrated and overwhelmed, like exactly what I do. And I was like, okay, well, first I have to create space for myself. I have to deal with it. I can't just deal with it. I have to deal with it. So I deal with it by first, whichever one just like wants to naturally come out of me. Sometimes it's at the same time, like feeling my emotions and then writing down like what I'm feeling or what's stressing me out or what I need to do. So writing out all those things and then feeling what I'm feeling. And so like yesterday I wrote out the first thing that needed to come out was what was on my brain. And so I wrote out all the things I needed to do. And it was like stupid shit. Like I need to, clean up the house, and I have like finish the laundry, and I have this stuff I need to fold. I need to go through all my mail, and I need to and then I was like, and then work tasks. I need to do this and that. And then I need to find this, and then bigger projects. I need to call the IRS, and I need to, I need to hire this person. I need to figure this out. I need to research that. And then it was, like, I'm stressed out about the fires. I'm stressed out about this person. I'm stressed out about that relationship. I'm stressed out about that. I'm like just writing out everything that was on my brain. And after I wrote it out, I was like, okay, wow. And then I realized, wow, I have a lot of emotions I just need to feel around this. So I just let myself feel my emotions. And then the way I deal with it is I give myself energy work. Like, so I set up my little space. I got my journal, and I opened up a session for myself. And in a session, I'm releasing a lot of emotion. And so kind of the first part of that is I just cleared out my field, because I'm like, I'm just going to feel better and be able to handle this better if I clear all this stuff. So I was cutting cords. I was just pulling energy out of my body, and I was immediately just feeling better. And then I could kind of start to see like, okay, what's the first thing I need to do? And the first thing that was on my mind was the stuff with the fires. So I was like, let me do stuff around that first. So I was doing energy work. I was just like writing, things down. I was reaching out to some people. And then I felt like, okay, that feels like good for right now. And then I was like, what's the next thing that's like really weighing on me that I can do right now? And there were just things I needed to like mentally figure out, because I felt like I couldn't focus on my to-do tasks until I figured these bigger things out. So I started doing energy work around it, and I was just, reading my fields and asking my guides the questions, and I started getting my answers, and I was writing it down. I'm like, great. And then I felt like I have a plan. I have a plan now. Okay. And then once I had a plan, I felt more clear-headed. So then I was like, now I can execute the plan. So then I went out and I looked at all the plan, and I started organizing it around when I could do those things. What makes sense, what can be handled right now, like what could be handled next week. And then I gave everything a place, and then I started executing some things, and then I felt better. So that's pretty much what I do anytime. Like, I have to brain dump, I have to emotionally feel things, I need to get some information, get some advice, which, most of the time is from the spirits, but there are certain times when I need to call a friend or something. And then I craft a plan, and then I execute.
Yep.
And that's how I handle it. And like part of that crafting a plan is like, this needs to go. I'm just not doing that. I'm going to make this decision. Like yesterday, we're canceling this trip. I'm just not doing that task. Like, that's part of the plan too. But yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, I'm like, I have to deal with this. Like, I have to deal with it. So what's going to allow me to deal with it? So first it's getting into a good energetic and mental state, and then it's actually taking action.
That's great advice.
Yeah.
It's a great step-by-step as well. Okay. I'm going to go back to a manifestation question that I liked. Sometimes as a human design generator and responder, I feel disempowered in my manifestation. I often feel like I am throwing paint at the wall and nothing is sticking. Or when a work opportunity does come my way, it doesn't end up working out. Like the other party stops responding or ghosts. And I feel like I'm spinning my wheels. Would love to know more about how to specifically manifest.
It sounds, and I know that person said when a work opportunity does come my way, it goes. It just sounds like that person is initiating a lot more than responding. That's just like the energy I get. And so I would be really careful about that as a generator. Like timing is everything, and the right frequency connection is everything. And so as a generator, like you're responding to what comes your way. Like we have to, we first focus on all the things that feel good for us, and that's what makes us magnetic. And then what's for us can come to us. Just because something comes to us doesn't mean it's a yes. So we also have to discern that. But I think the main thing is like you've got to charge up your juice and be magnetic. And then that's how opportunities come your way. The energy of that to me sounds like the person is like trying a lot of things to initiate it versus just doing things that they already know make them happy. That's the difference.
Yeah.
Like if I want to manifest an opportunity, the best thing I can do is do something that I know just lights me up. Like if I go to the spa, for example, versus what people would think is they're like, oh, let me do a post about this to see if that like sparks somebody coming my way. Do you see the difference?
Yeah.
Like, because it's all about energy and frequency. So to magnetize the opportunities, I'm focusing on what lights me up and makes me feel happy. But it sounds like you're like, I'm throwing like spaghetti at the wall. So to me, that's telling me that you're doing things that aren't making you feel magnetic. You're doing things that you think you should do. And then you're wondering why you're not getting aligned opportunities that are coming in. So it just feels like there's something very out of alignment, to be honest. It feels like you're trying to force something that doesn't want to be forced, whether that's with timing, but it really feels more, it's like the how of it's, you're trying to force it and you're trying to figure it out instead of letting it come to you. And I think the best thing is to take some pressure off of it and to focus on things in your life that just make you happy or that you feel like you do really well, and do those things, whether or not they're like career related, just in your life, and see then what comes your way and be open to it. Don't judge it. You know, I think a lot of times we have in our head, oh, I would do anything in this realm of possibility, and the universe is trying to take us down a totally different path, and then that will come in, someone will give us an offer and we're like, oh no, I don't do that, no thanks, and like we just bat it away. We got to be really open, you know. So I would say to kind of redirect your energy a little bit and stop thinking about it so hard and stop trying to force it to happen or stop trying to like prove yourself, and do things that just make you happy or that you're good at, and don't worry about anything else. Just focus on how it's making you feel in your body, because I think that's going to bring different opportunities to you. But yeah, it just feels like it's out of alignment.
I'm taking notes as a generator.
Yeah. Yeah. You know?
Yeah.
It's like subtle. I think the stuff with human design is so helpful because, you know, all it's the same advice again and again and again about how we operate, but you know, life's, and you're like, why isn't this working? And then you just reread the same sentence about how things work, and you're like, oh wait, I am forcing, or I'm trying to initiate, I'm trying to look, I'm trying to prove myself. That's not going to work. So I think it's helpful to just come back to those basic principles. Totally. Like, I'm here to respond, things come to me, and I need to juice myself up so that things come to me instead of figure it out harder. It's not your job to figure it out.
Retweet.
Yeah.
I'm trying to do more manifestations in my life for myself. When things started to come true and I felt everything is working in my favor, I started feeling guilty and selfish. How not to feel selfish when your manifestations are coming true?
I don't know. That's a question for me. I mean, because I'm like, well, I guess like a genuine question. I mean, why is it making you feel guilty?
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people can feel like this. I don't have this experience, I guess. But I mean, I guess I used to, I think a lot of my religious programming would make me feel guilty for being happy or having enough. And I think when I cleared a lot of that religious programming, I wasn't worried about it anymore.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of it is like, we've got to look at these programs we have and really just consciously as adults to ask ourselves, like, is that really true? Like, are you going to tell a child feel guilty for good things that you get? Yeah. Like, I think I thought about it that way when I was rewiring this. I'm like, would I teach this to my child? Would I tell my child, oh, you got that good thing, that, like, be embarrassed of that, be ashamed of that? Doesn't make any fucking sense. No. You'd be like, it's amazing, enjoy it, have fun. And so I was like, okay, well, that's so obvious to me. So that program doesn't make any sense to me. And I just realized a lot of it was just bullshit that I had been told by, a lot of it was religious, or society, or like authority figures who are like threatened, people who are really deep in scarcity, who would get threatened and jealous and then upset. And then when you just realize, like, that's all just their scarcity talking, like, that's it. And so I would say a lot of that, I would look into like the religious programming side of things, like where you're in scarcity energy, because like, what, we feel guilty because, I mean, why? I mean, that's the answer to that question is where you would go with it. Because if the why is, well, I feel guilty that I have this when other people don't, well, then you don't understand abundance. Like, the whole point of understanding energy is like, it is literally an illusion that if you have a lot, someone else can't have a lot. That is the illusion. And most people live their entire lives with that paradigm. So they always stay in scarcity and they keep everybody else around them in scarcity, right? So if we want other people to be abundant, that would be them living in abundance mindset, right? And so you are not going to activate someone else's abundance mindset by being in scarcity. It literally doesn't make sense. And so I think if people really, really critically think about this, your argument collapses on itself. And that's why I'm like, I'll talk to anyone about any of this stuff. Like, your argument collapses on itself. If you go down the religious programming track, like, it literally doesn't make sense, you know? So yeah, I would ask yourself, why? Like, well, why do I feel guilty? Why do I feel selfish? Like, where does that come from? What's the story I'm telling myself? Am I saying I'm a bad person? Why am I a bad person? Like, literally keep asking the question why. And then for me, I got down to these beliefs that then I looked at it and I was like, that doesn't make any sense. That, like, doesn't logically make any sense. And that's how I kind of cleared a lot of that. So that might not be a good answer, but yeah, I think, I mean, have you ever felt that way?
Guilty with religious programming.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But never, like, I feel like once I stepped into understanding what manifestation was, I had already done all the work to clear all of that. So maybe in the very beginning. But yeah, it definitely comes from that scarcity and that, like, it's like virtue signaling though too, right? Because it's like, well, what good is me over here not having money gonna do to someone on the other side of the world that's also poor? Like, 100%. It's not good for either of us. Yeah, you know,
it's not helping anybody. Yeah, and I guess it's also, I'm like, or like, really, like, do you really believe, like, if you believe in God, okay, you believe in source or whatever, a lot of this is like because people believe in God, okay? Do you really believe that God wants you to be struggling and unhappy? I'm like, actually curious. Right. I'm actually curious because most of what their beliefs and what they say, that would be true. Right. So I'm just like very curious about that. Like, why you worship someone who wants you to be in suffering. That's an interesting thing to me. Yeah. I have no interest in that. That makes no fucking sense to me. But if that's what you're doing, like, okay. And also that's going to be the same reason why you're in toxic relationships, why you're in abusive relationships. Like, I mean, that's going to be a whole host of other things, because if you're like, yeah, I'm going to worship somebody who wants me to suffer.
Yeah. I mean, because they believe that they're inherently naturally born wrong. Right. Yeah. And separate. From source.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good thing to look like. Why are you wrong for being born? Yeah. Like, do you really believe that? I mean, I just don't understand. Like, I think for me, that's why with religion, I don't think I ever got like deep enough in it, because from the beginning it didn't make sense to me. Yeah. I was like, I didn't do anything wrong. Yeah. Like, don't tell me I'm a sinner just because I was born. Like, I didn't choose to be born. Yeah. Y'all tried to do this. Yeah. You know, so it's like that doesn't even make any sense. It literally doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Even just the whole, don't get me started. I've been like all on one about religious programming the last like 3 days about the sex thing. Like the whole like
really?
sex being bad. I'm like, literally doesn't make any sense. It's so crazy to me. And I'm just like, this is why I don't even care about telling someone my spiritual beliefs. Is it really that helpful? I don't really give a fuck. Like, people need to learn critical thinking skills.
Yeah.
If you learn critical thinking skills, no one needs to tell you anything.
Yeah.
Like, you'll figure it out yourself. Like, it's literally a lack of critical thinking and like not being able to follow a logical argument. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's what we were talking about earlier. I can't remember what we were talking about it with, but like people like to be in this disempowered state. Like, I talk about this with Carlos all the time. It's like, because he's the same, right? Like he wasn't raised in that where I was, and I bought into it like for most of my life. And what I saw in everyone around, it's like people like to just be told what to believe, and what to do, and like, oh, if I do this, this, and this, then I know that I'm for sure good.
They like to not think.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, it's like, okay, you like to buy into that so that you feel safe, but you haven't critically thought, and like, what if this thing you're buying into is completely wrong?
Yeah.
Like that's the thing, and like it is.
And they refuse to, is the thing. Like, I mean, I've never seen someone get more defensive, including like my past version of myself. Then it's like, well, what if you're wrong? And it's like there's not a real answer to that. It's like, well, I know that I'm not wrong because the Bible is true because of XYZ, and they teach you like,
and that's totally fine if someone wants to believe that. And then don't come crying to me when your karma is dark. So I feel about it. It's like, I don't give a shit what someone believes. They're gonna have to deal with it. It's their life. Like, then don't come crying to me that you hate your life, that you can't make money, that you have toxic relationships, and then don't come crying to me in the next lifetime when your karma's dark. Like that's the thing.
Yeah.
I like that's how I feel about it. It might sound harsh, but I'm really like, I'm so uninterested in like convincing people of things. I don't care what anybody else believes. Like, if somebody wants to ask me, I'm happy to share my beliefs, but like, I don't care to convince anyone of anything. Like, we were talking about this with the psychic thing. Like, if you want me to give a psychic read, happy to do that. Like, that's my skill. Like, I see things that other people don't see. Happy to share that with people who want to hear that. And what they do with that is totally up to them. I don't really care. But like, if you're going to try and convince me that what I'm seeing, like, it's not that, like, I literally don't have time for it. I don't care. Then go to somebody else, you know? And so I just think it's so, I'm like, what are you trying to get out of this? Like, it's real. It's people are looking for something. And I'm like, you're looking in the wrong place.
Yeah.
You're looking in the wrong place.
No,
and I know that other people will give that to you, and you're not going to get that from me. Like, you're just not. And that's why I'm like, the second somebody's in that energy, I'm like, goodbye. Because I'm not going to keep enabling the shit that you're doing to everybody. Right? It's an unhealthy energy. It's not healthy for that person. And I'm certainly not going to play a part in enabling it for them. And it's certainly not healthy in terms of how they're interacting with other people. And I'm not interested in enabling people and being not loving to other people. Because when you're tugging on people's energy like that, when you are being condescending, when you are trying to pull energy in a manipulative way, I'm not interested in it. So I can't control how other people behave, but I can control what I allow in my field and what I enable around me. And I'm just not interested in it, you know? And so it's like all this really twisted stuff that happens in those spaces and with some of these questions, with some of these energies. And I don't think people are conscious of how twisted it is. Because it's been normalized, but like, these are the things that are blocking people from freedom in their lives and from health and from abundance. And yeah, I mean, I know what I want to help people with in this world. And so I'm not going to like calibrate to that kind of energy, you know? Like, it's just, it's wild. It's wild to me.
Yeah.
It's wild to me.
Yeah.
You've got to be sovereign. You've got to be...
Yeah.
You've got to be able to listen to things and be okay with not agreeing with it. And like, you can leave it. You don't have to agree with it, you know? But you know, that kind of, that pulling this, I'm committed to you being wrong and me being right. And I'm going to still question you. Oof. I want you to think about all the times in history people have acted like that. like, I want you to understand how dark that energy is. It disgusts me.
Yeah.
Like, to be honest.
Yeah.
And that's why I get so upset about it. 'Cause I'm like, that is an energy thread. Like, I will not be available for.
Mm-hmm.
It's anyone who's been abused in their life knows that energy.
Yeah.
Anyone who has been abused knows that energy. It's not okay. And it comes out in a lot, these like ways that aren't so clearly dark. But I don't care if it's like we're talking about my favorite flavor at the ice cream shop. Right. The energy is the energy, and it's not cool.
Yeah.
And we've got to start being aware of that if we want to shift as a society in terms of how we relate to each other, how we talk to each other, because it's gotten completely out of control. Mm-hmm. Like, people are out there genuinely looking for answers, and no one can find answers anymore because there's so much, just everyone's yelling over each other, saying stupid shit. Like, it's just a clusterfuck. So you can't even like find anything anymore. And there are people that are asking just like genuine, real questions. They're curious. They just want to know. And then there are people that are just like committed to everyone being wrong around them, and they have their blinders on, and they are not open to hearing any new information. Like, think about science. The whole premise of science is that we keep learning new things. Like, we don't know everything, right? And all of the things, as we've talked about before, that now it's like, duh, that, 20 years ago, 50 years ago, 100 years ago, we thought was completely insane, right? And so you've got to if you're this committed to a belief, if you're that unwilling to be like, maybe my entire worldview is wrong, like you're going to be wrong about something. I promise. Yeah. You will be.
Yeah. To me, it's like you said, speaking to the like abuse piece and just how disconnected it is from what they're actually saying. Like, if you, and obviously again, this is like not to overgeneralize, but if you're speaking about a God who is love, it's like full stop, right? Full stop. Like, now everything that you say after this, is it embodying love, right? And it's like it's just disconnect. That's the only word that I can think of between those things is so fascinating for me to watch, because they just are regurgitating what they have been told but have never lived, because they don't actually understand what it means, right? And so it's interesting that you say twisted, because it just reminded me of how they always talk about the devil, right? Oh, the devil twists things. Like, he makes it sound just like it's, just like it's truth.
How does dark magic work? They have to tell you what they're doing. Yeah. You have to buy into it.
Yeah.
So of course they're going to tell you how the devil works.
Yep. And I think it was Eckhart Tolle. I might be wrong. Maybe it was Alan Watts. But he talks about how in the original language that the Bible was written, to sin means to miss the point. And to miss the point is to miss the point of eternal life. Well, eternal life is the eternal present moment. And so we've been sold this idea that sinning is bad, and like we said, like that you're separated from source at birth. It's like, no, guess what? You're fucking missing the whole point. And that's what it means to sin. And so it's like the cycle, like you actually fell into the cycle. And the people that are maybe trying to poke holes in that, like me or you, in a loving way, if the person is willing to meet you in a loving conversation, it's like, we're not the enemy. We're actually trying to help you liberate so that you can awaken and you can live in love. But they're never able to see that because they have bought into the lie. Yeah. The actual lie.
I mean, where it breaks down a lot is it's like, okay, one, do you believe that your God is all loving?
Exactly.
And I don't know that everybody would say yes, but I think if they do, then it's okay, well, what do you believe love is? Yeah. And I think that's a bigger thing, is like, we might all have different definitions of love. And you know what? I'm fine with that. I know what mine is and I'm fine with that. But it's like, if your definition of love includes power dynamics, right? Includes manipulation, includes authority to lack of authority, like includes all of that, then like that's going to be your definition of love, and like that's what you're going to think is okay. Yeah. So I mean, it is what it is, but I mean, I know I'm going on a rant, but it pains me, because I think, especially recently, I feel like it's just been a topic where I'm just seeing how much this stuff has really, really hurt people with their physical health issues, with their relationship, like with relationships, with their ability to love, with their sexuality, with their and their ability to procreate, right? If we believe that a part of us is dark or bad or wrong, our physical body will shut down. Yep. Our physical body will shut down, right? I mean, if your brain is like, this is bad, like, yeah, like your physical body will shut down. And so, when people are having some of these very real physical issues, because, they've had this program, like, I'm bad, I'm wrong, this is bad to talk about. And even just like, oh, like, if sex is bad, like where that leads to, well, me being I can't really love I can't love someone, I can't be intimate with them because then I'm a sinner. And then it's like, well, now we can't experience love.
Yeah.
And it's just this very, very slippery slope. And then with the money, with career, it's like you have a huge mission and you're not helping people because you think you're a bad person if you make money. Like, what the fuck? It's like, so you're going to just not make money because you think that's better than not helping people.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really sad. And then people are in situations where they can't pay their rent, where they can't afford food. And that's what I'm saying. It's like a very real repercussions of like where you accidentally kind of ruin your own life. Mm-hmm. And you can always get out of that. You can always change that. You can always turn things around massively quickly, but you have to be willing to choose a different belief. Or you have to be willing to be like, well, what if I'm thinking about this wrong? What if something else is possible? So yeah, it really upsets me because I see how many people have been so negatively affected by it and have had to really work their way out of that hole. And my heart hurts, I mean, it literally kills me that people think that they're just bad for existing. Like, literally kills me. So yeah, I think, as conscious adults, we have to kind of break those patterns, and we have to understand all of the energetic repercussions and like very, very nuanced threads that come from some of that way of thinking, and cut those. Yeah. Because even when people are like on the same, if people are listening, like, I'm on the same page, I feel the same. We have to start paying attention to like these very subtle ways. It's still in how we move through the world. It's still in like how we relate to people, how we like, where we just get biased in the other direction, right? Like where we're still like, I don't know. We're still in duality. Like it's still, it's, same text, different font. Like we have to pay attention to that, to really cut it off, especially for like these kids. So they don't grow up with that guilt and that shame. And like, I don't know. I mean, I just think, look, you have this life, and if you want to live it, like, believing that having good things is bad, being happy is you're a sinner if you're happy, that intimacy is bad, like, if you want to believe those things, then like that's gonna be your life. It's just that simple. Like, that is what your life is gonna be. You're not gonna feel happy when good things happen to you, like, and that's what you're choosing. And I remember the moment where I realized my life is going to happen either way. And so I'm just going to choose beliefs that allow me to enjoy it, because either way it's going to happen. And so I decided that I was just going to appreciate myself. I decided I was going to choose to be confident. I decided I was going to choose to focus on things that made me happy, and things that made me feel heavy I wasn't going to. And if that made me wrong or bad, I was like, I don't really care, because those blissfully ignorant people over there are happier. And either way, we're both living, and then we're going to die. So, that's that. It's like, and that's where I come back to, like, when people want me to convince them of beliefs, I'm just not interested in it, because at the end of the day, you get to pick. It's not my job to convince you to pick either way. Like, you have to want it enough. You have to want happiness enough. You have to choose yourself enough. Like, you have to care about yourself enough. I can't make you care about yourself. If you care about yourself, then you will not let yourself live in a mental prison. It's just that simple, And so they're trying to get people to convince them of things intellectually, when the real issue is that you don't care enough about yourself, is that you're not willing to change things for yourself. So that's what has to change first. If you struggle with shifting your beliefs, like, you've got to look at, like, am I waiting for someone else to save me, or am I realizing the only person that's going to change anything is me? And when you realize that, then you will start to ask different questions and be open to different answers and relate to things differently, because you realize, I've got to take care of myself. So I wish I could do that for everybody, but I can't. And like, I won't, because I went through that myself, right? Like, as long as I was trying to get everybody else to make me feel better, to explain things that made me feel better, like, it never was going to work. I remember like every therapy session, every coach, and I was just sitting there like depressed and sad, and they would reason with me and they would say things, and I'm like, I just didn't buy it. And I realized there's nothing anyone was ever going to say to make me buy it, because like, I had decided I wasn't going to let myself be happy. And when I said, I'm going to let myself be happy, I'm choosing that, then I could actually listen to what people said to me and I could collect it. So I think that's important for people, just even if you're listening and you're like, wow, I feel like a lot of people around me tried to make me convince them or prove this or prove that. I want you to understand what's really going on, and I want you to stop trying to prove things to people. It's a waste of energy and it's not helpful for them. Like, really, like, if you want to express things just to share, great. Like, I will do that. But the second somebody wants me to, is like pulling me into their field and trying to get me to be that source of like reason for them when they're just not able to have a relationship with themselves, I'm not going to do that, because it's a lose-lose. And I'm not really interested in being set up to be in that position, you know? So that's my rant. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. But it's important stuff. It's important stuff. I feel like there's so much talk in this space about shifting limiting beliefs. And I'll answer that question in different ways I know how, including like, yeah, the real neuroscience and like the repetition and like, you know, you can use hypnosis, you can use energy. There's all these different things. But at the end of the day, like, none of that is going to work if you of your free will and like deepest belief have decided, I'm not going to change my beliefs. Because that belief is deeper than anything else, right? And I know for me, brain retraining, you know, neural reprogramming didn't work for me for so long because the deepest belief was, I'm not going to change my beliefs. And no one can unlock that except for you. It's that simple, you know? And when you unlock that, you realize, I actually don't need this complicated program. I actually don't need to do 20 days of hypnosis. Like, you can just make a decision and the belief changes that fast. And that's like the real unlock. But that takes a lot of self-awareness and personal responsibility. But it's not like, I don't know. I just think if someone's like, this is the key to your liberation, why are you not taking it?
I know. You know, you got to take it.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's within yourself.
Yeah.
And the lie that we've been told in all of these different programs is that we don't have it ourselves.
Yeah. So that's all I have to say about
Thanks
that.
for letting me come to your TED
your
TED Talk.
That's all I have to say about that. I don't even remember what the original question was, but yeah, that's my whole thing. It needed to come out. It needed to come out, you know? And I think it can be easy as, I remember the question was like, you know, I feel guilty about manifesting things, I think. It can really be as simple as, why? Do I need to be?
Yeah. Do I want to be?
Yeah.
So, no.
Because we can choose our emotions, right? We can choose how we relate to things. And that's why being conscious is powerful, because when you're living unconsciously, you don't have control over those things. When you're conscious in every moment, you're not acting out of habit or previous conditioning. When you're conscious, you can say, oh, here, right now, in this conscious present moment, I'm actually going to choose differently. And that doesn't feel any harder or easier than anything else. It's all just the same. Mm-hmm. That's why we live consciously and in the present. We're aware of what we're saying. We're aware of what we're doing, so that we are not shackled by the conditioning or the habits from the past. And we can truly, moment to moment, make new choices and create new realities for ourselves. That's the power of living consciously and being aware.
Amen.
Thank you. Okay. So yeah, that's I think we'll wrap up today. I need some water after that.
Yeah, Jesus.
All right. Well, are there any other like really fast happy ones?
No.
Okay.
I don't think so. They're all pretty in depth.
You guys send in happy questions.
Send in light, fun ones.
Send in like what's my favorite lipstick?
What is your favorite lipstick?
My favorite lipstick is Suede by Lawless.
Ooh.
It's lipstick
nice.
I wear every day. Or not every day, but like anytime I'm wearing lipstick, that's what it is. Suede by Lawless. It's clean.
Beautiful. Would love a good clean lip.
Yeah. Well, I'm there. But yeah, I mean, let us know what you think. Maybe not.
Let us know your high vibe thoughts.
Yes. Send us more questions.
Ayo.
We might go on another rant. Send us more questions. We'll put the link below. But yeah, let us know if you like Q&A episodes.
We love a good Christina rant. I loved this.
Yeah, I mean, it has to come out somewhere.
Yep.
It's like itching to come out of me.
Yep.
Come out of the channel.
Mm-hmm.
So there we go. All right, everyone. Have a great day. Love you. Bye.